Okay. Welcome to 6G Agenda. We got a live book club going on today. Let some people roll in. Kind of give it a little minute. Hope you guys are doing this good this week. Just man, got so much stuff here to go over. It is exciting. We're gonna have a good time. Hopefully we could get some people into the chat as well as maybe with us here on the live. You can go to StreamYard or our Patreon and get the link for StreamYard. And you can join up here with us, talk about the book Behold a Pale Horse by Bill Cooper. And man, it was prophetic. So pretty excited to get into the details of this. Kind of give it a few minutes, see if anybody kind of rolls in. It's Friday, so might have to pick a better day to do a live, I'd imagine, but whatever. It's a good day to kick it and listen to little, I wouldn't want to say fearful writing, but it is not light. This is not light. So yeah, I don't know if anybody's read Behold the Pale Horse. If you have, definitely leave a comment what you think if you've read it. As people kind of roll in, if they roll in, we'll see. But otherwise, people will definitely hear this later, so we won't spend too long kind of waiting on that. We'll just get going here in a second. So yeah, last week on Friday, we just did a quick 30-minute kind of episode. It got pretty deep pretty fast. Highly recommend checking that out. Kind of went over a little bit of the second chapter. I have a podcast on Spotify, Apple. You can even find the episode on YouTube if you don't know. And we did an episode, Silent Weapons, all about the silent weapons for quiet wars, which was a document that was discovered inside of a printer. So we kind of skipped over chapter 1 last week a little bit because we do have an episode on that. So you could check that out. Part of our silent weapons series, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document. We went into that. So highly recommend checking that out. We're going to get more into chapter 2. I will give a brief overview of the last week's kind of session. Like I said, if you haven't read Behold the Pale Horse, they do have a PDF file that is online if you want to check that out. It's definitely worth reading, but we'll get into it on here as well. If you have read about it, definitely leave a comment what you think. And we got a couple people will kind of get rolling here right now. Go over kind of first chapter real quick, and then we'll get, just an overview, and then we'll get into where we left off. So yeah, Behold the Pale Horse. He kind of starts this book off on a solemn kind of remark. He says, the apathy of the majority of the American people have ensured a civil war is just about imminent and the only way out if you want to kind of avoid this one world totalitarian socialist government. We must discern reality at all costs. And to be a part of the future, we have to realize that we have been lied to and truth has to prevail in order to survive. He thinks it's really eminent to our life that if we don't discover the way we're being deceived, and we won't ever save ourselves on a literal level. He mentions how he's kind of more concerned about the innocent children that are occupationally orphaned, latchkey kids that run rampant, do whatever. These are our future, and broken home single welfare mothers that kind of it's growing to the point where, and this is 20 years ago that he wrote this, 25 years or more. So this has been a long time coming. I think that Bill Cooper might have been a little ahead of his time. And right now is a great time to revamp what he was trying to do, because I think that right now might be the time of what he was talking about. It's going to be a deep dive. Hope you guys hang out, stick around. We're going to get deep. Artificial womb concept is something that has been placed on people from the elites that believe that they understand human nature, and they think that we're chasing an artificial womb, essentially. We want security. We want to have all these things and not do anything for it, right? And we look to politicians as kind of the godfather in the security welfare, right? And this creates that welfare state. And this is used as a weapon against us, of course, where our conveniences are then turned into what become our shackles, right? And that's kind of what we talk about a lot. So people complain about corruption in the government when it's only possible with the powers we give through kind of not taking responsibility or liability for the things that we do. We want security for our country, but we send our sons and daughters over to war. And, his argument was all that. These aren't all my opinions necessarily. I do think that there's something to that, though, that people get programmed to the point where they're like, yep, we got to protect our country. I think it's a lot less now. And so, of course, that's why we see the commercials after Charlie Kirk died about joining the military and they use the Lord's Prayer. I swear, dude, I have nothing against that. But if I hear that again, because now that it's been corrupted by these politicians trying to get people to come sacrifice their life, right? I mean, a soldier means literally like a soul dies, right? Like that's what you're just a sacrificed pawn. While the people that are doing it don't ever fight. So yeah, he kind of gets into how they have to destroy the home, right? And how the man must be housebroken. And so the child is thoroughly programmed. The man has to be housebroken and it can't be like anti-society, right? Things like that. So they probably worry about me for sure. He is made to think that women need security. And so to have a successful sex life, you gotta provide and you gotta sit down, shut up, and go with the flow, right? Because they believe that mothers are ruled by emotion, right? And therefore their imagination and is kind of over their logic, right? And so they have to be conditioned as well. And the transition becomes harder to manage when the home is not broken. So that's when they kind of work on, we got to break the home, that make it hard. Women working a two-pay household in the government, ran daycares, things like that start to ramp up. So this detaches the child from the mother and father at an early age, right? And so we just got to realize, he kind of mentions that all of us have been cattle and that we have to realize that cattle are people who don't use their intelligence and are no better than people that have no intelligence or brain at all, right? And they become useful, keyword useful, beasts of burden, aka the child, mother, and father. Go fight in the wars for us so we can have our regime change, or resources we need to extract, and all these things we do, right? So Bill Cooper asserts that you must accept that you have been cattle or slaves and must prepare to fight and die, if necessary, for the God-given right to freedom, right? I agree with that. That's a real thing. So, second chapter, we touched on it a little bit. Secret societies last week. Brotherhood of the Dragon and Snake. They were devoted to guarding the secrets of the ages, right? And they acknowledge Lucifer as the one and only true God. Intellect. Them. And the secrets are supposedly so profound that only a few can understand these secrets. But how could we know? Because it's always been hidden. So most certainly is probably deception. And exclusively is most of the power. I'm sorry. The exclusivity is most of the power for these secret societies. Because people all want to be a part of like the elite few, right? Even if you don't actually learn or do anything, it's just this idea of, well, I'm a part of it, right? And they play on that human nature part. And the most potent tool, once you're in it, are the rituals and rites and myths of initiation. These special binding ceremonies have deep meanings for the initiate. Boot camp is very similar, where they kind of give you the camaraderie, break you down, rebuild you up as a new person. It's kind of like mind control almost, to an extent as well. It's kind of funny. But this bonds them together in mysticism, right? And the neophyte means reborn or planted anew, which is what they call the person in the first initiation. So they believe that they're reborn into the, you know, light of Lucifer. And they learn a secret. And the goals of the society are reinforced every initiation and every secret that they receive. They believe that they're attaining a higher level, they're going up the pyramid. And these secrets are generally, because from what I read before, it's like there's 1,000 ways to tell one lie. It's pretty much what these secrets are, right? The goals of the society. Yeah, yeah. Initiation. It means the rewarding of the ambitious men who can be trusted, right? And the higher degree equals the fewer members. It's a pyramidal structure. And this is not because of the lack of ambition. Instead, a very few people are carefully selected as being uh part of like the top, right? And a pull up by a higher member is almost like necessary in order to gain any more kind of, I don't know, kind of high up on the next person, because everybody just kind of, I'll get into it. So there's one initiation where they say spit on the cross, right? And if you say no, they'll be like, well, that's great. Of course, we would never want you to do something like that. And then that person might find that they actually didn't exceed where they were, right? But another person who does it are expressing that they understand the deeper meanings of the mysteries that religion is used as a pawn on the masses. The mystery religion is only a tool for the masses. This is what they believe. Knowledge or wisdom is their only God, through which man himself will become God. And so we've all heard that, religion is a tool for the masses, and that's true. But does that mean we throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And say, okay, that's it? No, there's real teachings within it. And we have to understand that if we follow that philosophy, we're now following the philosophy that our knowledge and intellect is better than God's, and that's it, right? So I believe it's really our job to discern what truth is through using our, God-given intuition, talents of searching, right? So anyway, it's kind of getting into that. But they really do believe that only a few contain high intellect, right? And they think that those people belong to them, aka, we'll get into it, but these secret societies like, Knights of Malta, Freemasons, Rosicrucians, all that. So they think that if a person that has to go through a very high stress situation can hold their poise and maintain a good reasoning level and not result to an animalistic frame of mind of fight or flight, they believe that this is an indication of sorry, I lost my place, is an indication that they're kind of one of them, or one of the intellectual, right? Somebody who doesn't panic or freak out. The reasoning faculties are good. And this reminds me of Dune. If you remember, where he sticks his hand inside of the thing and like, I don't even know what it feels like, but he wants to take it out, and she keeps the thing to his neck. And if he moves or makes a noise, she'll kill him. And this is very much an initiation ritual done on a Hollywood level in a movie. That's exactly what that is. And everything about the Bene Gesserit in Dune is very, very like Freemasonic, secret society. Really, Dune, the whole, everything about Dune is all about this kind of. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend. All right, so hopefully you're enjoying. We got one person. We had a couple, but yeah, we got one right now hanging out. Thank you. Masses worship the five senses, while the esoteric or hidden meaning is only maintained for these select few, right? So there's guardians of the secrets of the ages, is what they call themselves. These people are the Mithraic cult, or Roshania, or their counterpart, the Builders, aka Freemasons. All the Illuminati, aka Sons of Light, are the same. What's up, Jack? Hey, right on, man. Let's go. So yeah, Rashaniya were the first kind of assassins, but they were also called the Sons of Illumination, right? Or the Sons of Light. That's where the initial Illuminati terminology came from. And we're talking Rashaniya way back when. We're talking Assassin's Creed, right? And so that's pretty cool. That's what the game's about. So now you see that like they just keep kind of Hollywoodizing and making sure you know without knowing what you're looking at, you're seeing it, right? So everything I'm saying is 100% shown to us just in a different light. On the exoteric for the profane, whenever people that understand the esoteric that read about it like me and now you see this deeper level at work. So the Grip of the Lion's Paw initiation ceremony is essentially, they believe that what rises them up when they're born again is the grip of the lion's paw. Now, doesn't that remind you of the Israel operation whenever they went and bombed Iran? Pretty sure it was called Operation Lion. It's all the same, guys. It's not the Jews, it's not the Jesuits, it's not the Catholics, it's all of them. Because they wouldn't be able to get along if they didn't all have a commonality amongst them. And I believe that that commonality is this Luciferian idea of man can become God. And they utilize Abrahamic religions against us. So the illumination, they believe, comes from supreme beings or one that desires a perfect class of men, a class of perfect men to carry out organizational and direction of the world, right? Doesn't that remind you of something? A little Nazi kind of esque. You know, the Rashaniya, the illuminated ones, they believed in the abolishment of private property, nation states, and religion. I mentioned this last week. I just wanted to reiterate that. That is very much WEF, World Economic Forum. You'll own nothing and be happy. But believe in a plan to reshape social systems. They believed in that. By first taking control of nations one by one. And they also believed that the fourth initiation, they could actually contact these supervisors, gaining more knowledge on what to do. And I kind of liken that to a lot of these, like, you know, Isaac Newton, people like that say, I contacted, you know, your head's a frequency and you can contact entities if you tune into a frequency. And I very much think that it's the same thing as they're talking about in their, you know, when they reach the fourth or 40. I'm sorry, hold on, I'm fixing this. Oops. When they reach the 44th initiation. It's just like that, like Tesla, where he says he contacts an alien or something. It's crazy, dude. I mean, well, maybe he was talking to a pigeon. There's so many of them that talk to entities. It's hard to keep track. As Ben said from End of the World News, there was that one guy that created the computer the way it is now, and he would go and dig until he saw the elves, and the elves talked to him. So that's the kind of level we're dealing with a lot of these very smart people. And this is all going to lead somewhere, okay? Remember their ideology, okay? The illuminated ones, what they believe, what they want to abolish, how they want to operate the world. And remember that as we get into the geopolitical side of the reality of what is going on, because he does a great job at laying this out. So the Nazi right and the Nazi extreme left are like the same. That's what he argues, and I always say that. It's funny. All members of the Brotherhood, they may use Christian or Jew, but they're all really Luciferians. And they believe in no nation state, yet they utilize nationalism to further this agenda, which is what we see with Trump. They want undisputed control of the wealth, energy, and natural resources of the world, so that they can instill this Luciferian, totalitarian, socialist police state. I like to add in the police state because that's I mean, I know it's already got so many tags, so fuck it, throw another one on there. But they will kill all Jews, Christians, and atheists. This is something that they've written. They have a war against them. And so, see, because they hate atheists too, because you can't not believe in anything, right? You have to have a semblance of a creation belief, because they're idealists who believe that we're human-centric in a human-centric universe that's meant for man to become God. It gets deep. All secret societies are the same, especially if initiations are present. So let's go through some of them. The Roshaniya, the Order of the Quest, the Kabbalah, Knights of Malta, Jesuits, Rosicrucians, Nazis, Communists, CFR, Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, the Skull and Bones, the Scrolling Key. They all work towards a new world order. Many disagree on who will run it, and that's kind of what you see where they kind of fight with each other, and or like, they're like, I'm doing this or whatever. Because yeah, there's different factions, families, right? As Ben calls, I forgot what he calls it, but he explains it really well. So remember, I started mixing in, right? CFR, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg Group with all those, because we're now bleeding into how this gets into our everyday life. Because a lot of times when I describe secret societies and the ancient cults of Babylon and how they progressed, I don't ever get to where they became what they became, because people just get caught up in, what does that have to do with me, right? All the way back then, it doesn't have anything to do with me. It does, though, because Sam P. Huntington wrote that democracy and economic development must be ruled outdated ideas, because if we ever reach a crisis state, a point where we have any issues and we need to sacrifice people or whatever, we need to have ultimate control over everything. So if we don't have control, then we can't sacrifice what we need to whenever the time comes. That's a crazy argument. But what if I told you that everything that he wanted to happen became executive orders as time went on? And now we live in a world that may not be as free as we've been told. Bill Cooper seems to lay out a great argument that that's the case. So the CFR, let's get into that. So they're kind of like a power base that's used to gain consensus of opinion amongst the society cultures of the world, right? And most are being used, but people that are among the executive committee are people that have to be initiated in the Order of the Quest or the Jason Society, which is essentially what all these other things are too that I mentioned a minute ago. Rockefeller gave Kissinger $50,000 in the 50s, and then he entered the CFR. $50,000 in the 50s is a lot of money, and we know what Kissinger did after that. And so the CFR does have, it controls the government more than the government controls it. It's the foremost flank of international establishment. The Skull and Bones and Scroll and Key make up executive committee. And the British Royal Institute of International Affairs was a sister company to the CFR because they merged in the 1920s when J.P. Morgan, the Carnegie Group, and the Rockefellers invested millions of dollars as their goal to create a new world order. And now the CFR controls the government, executive state, CIA, military, the whole thing, because they're involved, like people that are in the CFR are also in all those parts of our government. Most presidents were members, and most journalists as well. And the government conforms to CFR policy more than CFR conforms to the government. Just so you know. It's pretty wild. So Eisenhower appointed, supposedly, we'll skip past the majestic. It kind of throws a little wrench in this. But maybe not, because Eisenhower appointed 6 members of the CFR for Majesty 12. And maybe this is part of this secret government that they created with this breakaway civilization technology, because they called it a secret extraterrestrial group. And if you watch my show, that's deeper than just the extraterrestrial group. We know what they're doing. It is deep breakaway parallel government, all that shit. Well, he lays out that that's exactly what they kind of thought, right? So it's very crazy, because now as times went on, we know that there's underground bunkers and tunnels that lead to each other. We see UFOs in the sky, knowing that it's probably our government, as well as a lot of other crazy technology. And in the 90s, when he was writing about this, yeah, they had some semblance of idea of that. But they really were right there close where we are today. And it's all theory. It's like, nah, man, there's a lot of people that came to the same conclusion. So he also posits around here to never worship a leader. As soon as you do, you can't see the deception that is being put upon you. And I wrote that one down because Trump, man, nobody fucking sees what's going on. Like, there, digital IDs, biowarfare convention. I mean, the UN announcement he gave, the amount of money we give to Israel. I mean, this is crazy. And nobody is waking up to that because they are following a religious figure in their mind. So another one of these organizations is the Bilderberg Group, of course. This was created by Prince Bernhard, card-carrying Nazi. Hold on, hold on. I'm going back to who helped to create, helped do 9/11. I'm so sorry. Trump did? I was just talking about Trump. So who helped create or make 9/11 happen? Ooh, I'm excited. Did Prince Burn? Oh, Trump. Ooh, okay. Damn. I'd love to get your information on Trump allegedly, helping do 9/11, Jack. That's awesome. I know you're working, I appreciate that. I'd love to hear that, if you get time, go ahead and throw that in there because, man, that's crazy. Take your time. Let me know. Wow. So the Bilderberg Group, as I said, 1950 on the news that day, he claimed, he coined it. The phrase never forget. Really? It's so funny because the other day we had Netanyahu coming to DC, and what did he say? He had those black vans all over DC, and they all said, "Remember October 7th." It's like the inversion of never forget. It's crazy. So I'm with you, man. That's just wild. Super wild. Not surprised though either. I mean, him becoming president, that was unleashing the Saturnalian chaos energy that needed for the police state to start, right? And then now you have him essentially sealing the deal that Bush started. Kind of makes sense. Wow. And Larry Silverstein and him were buddies. Well, yeah, I bet. Real estate in fucking New York. Not surprised there. Wow. Shit gets deep, man. So in 1954, we had the Bilderberg Group. And this Bilderberg Group was started by this card-carrying prince, Bernhard, who has the power to veto the Vatican's choice of a pope because he has a family called the Habsburgs who are Roman emperor descendants. That is crazy. So, just to break that down, this prince who was a Nazi has Roman emperor descent and they're able to veto the pope choice? Holy shit. And remember, the Bilderberg Group is essentially a secret society that everybody knows about, full of executives and businesses and everything where we can't know what they talk about. So the leader of the black family from the House of David is this guy. With the help of the CIA, he brought the ruling Illuminati body to public knowledge. But the core of the Bilderberg Group is 3 committees with 30 members each, all Freemasons, Vatican, Black nobility members. And they work in Switzerland, these people, year-round, Bank of International Settlements, United Nations, NATO, all these global corporate places that Nazis never invaded Switzerland. Very important. Now you see that monstrosity of a man fucking talking about how he's going to make sure money's a privilege. He like runs the Bank of International Settlements. Holy shit, dude. Our Breakaway Civilization episode literally covers all this as far as the Bank of International Settlements and the underground bunkers, the whole deal. So, and bragged about how his building was now the tallest. Not scared his building would be attacked next. Yeah, no, definitely. Secret knowledge be happening. For sure. So these people are the ones directing the quiet war that we talked about, right? Where the silent weapons quiet war and The Secret Destiny of America by Manly P. Hall. If you're not familiar with Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Freemason, he wrote a book called Secret Teachings of All Ages. And he also wrote a book called The Secret Destiny of America. And he laid out that America was created to create a enlightened democracy on nations of the world. And the Order of the Quest decided in the American colony they would plant new roots for a new way of life, aka the New World Order, aka that's why we have the symbols we do on the back of our dollar bill. It has been planned since the beginning. And, Manly P. Hall is a very prominent Freemason, and he asserted that. I kind of believe him. So even Benjamin Franklin, he spoke for the Order of the Quest. We know that a lot of Freemasons were the founding fathers, but they also were a part of the Order of the Quest. And they received aid from a secret body in Europe. Now, let's use our thinking caps here. Who was in Europe during that time? A secret body? The Illuminati? Just guessing. I don't know. I would like to think that that's probably where they got their help. Because when the Illuminati came out and people found out about them, the Freemasons absorbed them. So, pretty crazy. But at the end of the day, secrecy has to be wrong because they're not doing this stuff for fun. There's some important aspect to this where they believe that, like Bush Sr., he didn't go throw himself in a coffin, tie a string around his nuts, and, talk about all the horrible things he did, right? For fun, right? Bill Cooper makes that example, and I think that's very poignant to point out because these people aren't just doing this weird shit, grown men. I mean, no, man, they stand to gain a lot by doing these things. And it's all about control and deception onto them so that they can do it onto us. That's the crazy part. It's a top-down, fucking same shit happens to me that happens to you. They think that they're above us, but really they're being controlled from above them. It's nuts. That's how corporations work. Think about it. Sociopaths make it to the top of a corporation almost every time because we live in a world that's built by these people. Think about it. So John Robinson, he wrote a book called Proof of a Conspiracy in 1798. There's a quote here. Nothing is so dangerous as a mystic association, the object remaining a secret held by only the managers. A mystical object enables the leader to shift his ground, creating prejudices that he can then misuse onto his initiates. So in other words, carrot and the stick, I'm over here, I'm holding the philosopher's stone, right? We've all heard of that. But you never actually get to it, right? It's like the squirrel trying to get the nut, never really comes. Right when you think you got it, nope. You still got another thing to do, another quest. That's why it's the Order of the Quest. That's why a lot of TV shows and stuff that have that kind of theme to it, there's always another thing to do next. Pretty nuts. So the balance of power and the subversion in the three branches, this is where shit gets really crazy, where we start to really uncover this parallel government that's operating and how it's able to operate. We're about to lay it down, dude. This is the exciting part that I was really excited to present to you today. So executive orders, like laws made by Trump, right? These are things that were not always what they are today. So remember this. A citizen is not responsible for a law if not made available for him to know about it, right? National security directives, however, are a way to kind of make secret laws, subverting Constitution without the knowledge of the public. So the Civil War, there was something called martial law that was enacted that never was rescinded, giving power to continue writing law, subverting the Constitution. And there was a justification for the president to write law via executive orders during that time. So martial laws are still, executive orders are still here, right? Therefore, martial law never went away. And that's kind of an indicator of that. So since Lincoln, we have been under martial law. Hidden dangerous tools are being used, like the national security Act, things like that. We'll get into it just in a minute. So remember the two presidents I'm naming here. Lincoln enacted martial law for the Civil War. Reagan wrote over 300. He wrote over 300 of these national security documents that were never brought under public scrutiny. Now, if you notice, Trump always, people like to liken him to Lincoln, and then he likens himself to like Reagan, right? Well, Lincoln and Reagan are kind of the main two people who had a lot to do with what enabled this secret government to propel. Nixon as well, there's more too, but we'll get into that. But it's just funny to me how he mentions them a lot. So most people have never even heard of this shit. The Congress has turned a blind eye to it. But at 3:30 a.m. on August 4th, 1990, the Senate made it easier to do all this, making it pretty much making George Bush the king. Okay. So 10 senators made something called the Senate Intelligence Authorization Act. The Senate Intelligence Authorization Act was created by 10 senators at 3:30 a.m. when nobody was around to stop it from being signed. Now, what did this Senate Intelligence Authorization Act do? Well, you remember Iran-Contra. Well, that's very important when we're talking about this. So it fraudulently produced a reform to prevent future incidents brought to light by Iran-Contra. So people found out about Iran-Contra, and then they wrote this to where they could keep it under the knowledge of everybody if they do things like this again. We're going to get into what it authorizes them to do. It virtually authorizes every abuse, transferring most authority into the president's hands. He could start a war, appropriate funds. He could define foreign policy goals now. These were not things that were done before. Under the Title 7 for the Oversight Intelligence Activities, Senate Bill 2834, you will find that the president has the power to initiate a covert action. This supersedes Congress' veto on actions, right? And it allows to use any federal agencies to finance it. Most authority, it goes into the hands of the president. Covert action is something he's allowed to do now. And covert action is defined as any operations necessary to support foreign policy objectives. That's very important because the president gets to decide what's important for national security and foreign policy objectives. So we have this like executive branch that's able to pretty much supersede the other three. And it gets deeper with the FEMA and everything else. We'll talk about that. So essentially, unlimited power is given. This gave authority to secretly interfere economic, internal, and military affairs of foreign governments. So in other words, we do regime changes in Venezuela or Colombia or Iran or whatever. They gave this power over around this time. This was not legal. It still is technically internationally illegal, but we made it legal to do here. So we can claim executive privilege if Congress asks too many questions as well. Not we, the president. And it allows the executive branch to skirt laws and overpower other branches with unlimited power. National Security Directive 138. Susan Fitzgerald, that's something that you can check to verify that. Susan Fitzgerald, she kind of saw some declassified national security document directives. She asserts that most of these documents were not signed. She found them unsigned, she believes, to conceal the fact that they were using AutoPen to sign them. This was during the Reagan's presidency when he signed 300. We know Biden was AutoPenning during his presidency. So again, is this unbelievable? Somewhere there is a plan to suspend the U.S. Constitution, and that's a fact. During the Iran-Contra hearing, Congressman Jack Brooks from Texas asked Oliver North if he ever planned to suspend the Constitution. Brooks was silenced by the chairman. Senator Inouye was the chairman that day, and he said that because of national security, we're going to have to talk about this behind closed doors, and nobody found out what was said. So most likely, there is definitely a document that's trying to overthrow the Constitution or subvert it in some way. And Oliver North even admitted that if they didn't get caught, they would have, and this, only postponed it. That was later when he was talking to somebody else. I have it in my notes. Pretty nuts. So let's get into Mount Weather and FEMA and the continuity of government. Because if they subvert the Constitution, who's in charge? Well, it seems that FEMA would be in charge. But we don't know who runs the FEMA camps. FEMA themselves? I don't know. We'll get into it. So this is all connected to national security measures. Remember that. That's very important because when they made the National Security Directive back in the day, I believe it was in the 50s, that's whenever all this started to slowly tiptoe to where we are today, where there's unprecedented power given to a few and not split between the three branches like it should be. So emergency management is the guise for the real purpose of FEMA. To take over local, state, and federal government in national emergencies. The only way to do this is if the Constitution was suspended, though. And martial law had to have been declared at that point. Its very existence, FEMA's, is the proof that there is a plan to suspend the Constitution because we couldn't use it unless it was suspended at the level that they talk about here. So, therefore, the plan has to exist somewhere. So the digging happened, and we're going to get really deep into it. It's crazy. So in Virginia, 46 miles west in D.C., in a restricted area with the strongest granite composite you can find within a mountain is something called Mount Weather. It's the Western Virginia Office for Controlled Conflict Operations. Controlled conflict operations. So in other words, we mitigate conflict, we hide under a mountain and make sure that if anything happens, we're safe. That's how you got to look at that. Remember that one show is like with the dude from the show 24, and he was like the guy, like when everybody died, the president and everybody else, he got to be the next president or whatever. Or like, London is fallen and all that shit. They show you the control room that they would be in, and it's a tunnel that connects them to it's a whole thing. But they shown us what they would do, and there's a whole nother government that's possibly really waiting to become the government, the deep state, if you will. So if you go onto this restricted area where this Mount Weather is, and you log any activity or make a map of how to get there, how to get out, you're liable for a search at any point. I mean, that's not a place you'll get arrested and in trouble right away. It's federal preparation agency, and it was in the early 50s, whenever the continuity of government was created, that they built this. Congress inquiries were met with silence whenever they asked about Mount Weather. Somebody said, "I am not at the liberty to discuss the role, mission, or capability we have at any of these locations." Mount Weather, Area 51, or S4, Area S4. Crazy. So this gets weird. Mount Weather held Democrat John Tummy of California, 1975. This is a quote from him. It's fucking creepy. Mount Weather held dossiers on 100,000 Americans at least. Mount Weather's computers were described as the best in the world and can obtain millions of pieces of additional information on personal lives of civilians. Sounds a lot like Palantir before Palantir was made. Total information awareness, aka Patriot Act, all that. Bill Cooper asserts that they're going to come in the dead of the night during a national holiday and round people up with little effort that they have on these lists. Because they have a list of the people that would most likely resist the subversion of the Constitution. And I believe, again, they didn't quite have the technology to the level that they do now. I think it's a totally different ballgame. I think Bill Cooper was slightly ahead of his time. And we may be seeing this shit come to fruition soon. I will go ahead and give the same warning that he gives. Try to stay away from, like, go out of town for holidays. Upon researching Mount Weather, one finds a lot of disturbing facts. A government in waiting, full with president and secretaries. They even have to say Mr. President. Subordinates have to say Mr. President to people that work there in this place. And it's insane. They're holding administration through several they've held like their own administration, like one president, all these security people. They've stayed the same while multiple administrations went through. And so it's possible this is the real deep state and they don't want you to know. And so then they blame the left for being deep state. And it's this whole thing whenever really there's a real deep state going on. Underground, Mount Weather, whatever. Taking calls, giving calls, telling them what to do. It's pretty crazy. So this is for the control of domestic political unrest, allegedly. But it hides a parallel government underground. Civil crisis management was created by JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So he doesn't get off on this. Like he's got a little something to do with this. It was utilized during 1967 and 68 and whenever JFK died and multiple other times. Every major riot, whatever, they've utilized this place. Daniel J. Cronin, he was the assistant FDA director, outlined a surveillance program on population to manipulate them continually. Monitoring situations, getting to them before they become emergencies. Now, again, sounds like predictive policing. They monitor situations so they can get to them before they become emergencies. Sounds a lot like the dude that was talking about Gideon, where he said, we can prevent these things from happening. We can look at people's posts, we can see what they do, and we can stop them before they ever commit a crime. But all we have to do is suspend the Constitution. That's the last part that they never say, but they should, because that's really what they're hinting at. But I don't think people get the context of what they're saying when they say that, right? So it's kind of a weird thing to watch, because it's like, man, do you guys not see that not only are they saying they want to predictively police and know what you do, and you're okay with that, but they're also saying they will put you in jail before you do anything, which means you would have no constitutional rights anymore. Your freedom's gone. And people don't even bat an eye. Don't even bat an eye. So let's get into some of these executive orders, man, because it gets wild. There was no expenses spared, by the way, for them getting to the emergencies before they happen. They bought satellites. They infiltrated police and made sure they have, all kinds of whatever technology, flock, etc. And also federal government, the whole deal. Now, they didn't know much about this when he wrote this, but now we could write a whole book on what they have that they've been using since then, like flock and all these other technologies. So Executive Order 11490 gives emergency preparedness, preceded FDA, signed by Nixon. Okay? That one was a little choppy. So in 11051, Executive Order 11051, okay? 1962. This was written by Kennedy. Now, what I want you to pay attention to here is the vocabulary of these executive orders. There's a large difference between them. And you'll see in the vocabulary how it has evolved. So Kennedy said in 1962, national preparedness must be achieved for war or an imminent attack on the United States. National preparedness for war or an imminent attack. Now, what did Nixon say whenever he made a national security measure? He said national security is to keep continuity of government in any conceivable situation, very vague, posing threat to national security that might conceivably confront nations. In other words, if anything could possibly happen, the most important thing is continuity of government. That's not at all what Kennedy was saying. Kennedy said we need to be prepared as a nation for an imminent attack or war on us. Now, notice this change of vocabulary, because through executive orders, because of the martial law not being rescinded in the Civil War, they have stacked so many executive orders up that we don't know it, but they have all power over. I mean, it's crazy. So he ditches the war and attack and all that stuff for national security and all that. So this allows FEMA to suspend the Constitution. No notes of restoration of the Constitution after emergency is ended has been written into any of these documents that describe what they will do when they need to suspend the Constitution. Now, that's a little creepy. So they don't really have a plan on how we're going to reinstate it. We're just going to get rid of it, and then we'll figure that out after. It's not, it seems a little weird for all these people that are so smart. So when you look back, Operation Chaos, the IRS made a list of people. The CIA, FBI has a list of detention, people that would be put in detention in an emergency. And no one knows who's in control of these relocation centers. And this shows that this is all an instrument to overthrow constitutional republic that we live in today. So crazy. Pretext to these emergency measures happen daily if you think about it. You have drug war, right? I mean, fuck, cartel war, right? Mass shooting, oil spills, food shortages, riots, any of that stuff could trigger a national security emergency, a national emergency. COVID did it, and they tested it out. And any disaster emergency could trigger it. Now, if a emergency was to happen, what would be the case? What would go down? Well, do you know about Rex 84? I'm sure you've probably heard about it. But Rex 84A was a test for readiness of the military, etc., in this situation. Shortly after, around that same time, you had 11051, executive order, where it gives FEMA all executive orders in effect in times of emergency, financial, health, the whole shebang. And it doesn't even mention war or a nuclear attack. You understand? It will give them all power in case of an emergency and mentions nothing of war. They aren't even thinking about it. They're like, we're just talking about any emergency. If you really think about it, dude, like that, it's so transparent. These are all executive orders I'm about to go into. Just check this out. Let it build a picture for you of what they could do. In case of an emergency, these are all executive orders. They were written separately, but I'll get to it. They've all been put under one umbrella now, but they were written separately. Check this out. Executive Order 10995 says that they could take over all communications and media in an emergency. 10997 says gas, food, and minerals will be taken over by them. 10988 says food resources and farms will be taken over. 10999 executive order says all transportation, highways, seaports will be shut down and controlled by them. 11,000 says civilians, very important, will be mobilized to work brigades. The fuck does that mean? And what is Trump building those camps for? Am I the only one asking these questions? No, he's going to save us. Yeah, he's going to walk you into alligator Alcatraz is what he's going to do. 11,001 says government takeover, health, welfare, the whole deal. And 11,002 says the Postmaster General is going to operate National Registry of all persons. In other words, fuck it, they'll just give you a digital ID before they even do it. See how they're kind of making an open air prison? I think, here's my theory, okay? There might be some weight to this. Because again, this is all written by Bill Cooper. I think that there is weight to this probably, but my theory is, why do all this? Yeah, sure, keep it as plan B, but you can make an open, plan A is make an open air prison that nobody realizes until they're under it, where you do have control of all these things. You do have control of the media. You do have people registering themselves under digital ID. You do have control of all of it, right? So I think you don't need to do all this. But again, whatever. 11,003 taking over the airports, aircrafts. Executive Order 11,004, finally. Relocate communities to establish new homes. So just fucking move them out, shut it down, break it down, whatever. We're just going to do what we want. All of this combined into one big executive order under Nixon. If ever a national emergency is declared and the head of FEMA is the only one who has to declare an emergency. So the president declares it a national emergency. Nothing happens. Okay. FEMA declares it a national emergency. Crazy shit could happen because they have the power, allegedly. Crazy shit. I mean, you got CFR, WEF. A lot of other people have the power too, but I'm just saying they have a lot of power in America. This has all been combined. This is crazy to me too. Because think about this. This guy just died. All these executive orders were also combined and signed 11/4/90 by President Carter. So funny that he died, just recently, like right when all this is coming to fruition and he kind of made it possible. It's just, it's weird. But Oliver North did say that they were prepared to suspend the Constitution, and it would have happened if not caught, yet only delayed it. Sounds like a guy from Scooby-Doo, Them meddling fucking truthers and people that, them meddling patriots, they wouldn't have fucked with me. I wouldn't have got caught, It's like, man, you're evil. So anyway, President Bush issued a new order delegating powers to the director of FEMA when he was president. It was described as a technical matter during the time, but it gave a large number of items only the president could do before to the owner or person running FEMA. General federal assistance, federal emergency assistance, family grant programs, and individual grant programs, power to direct all other agencies, which is very important. They get the power to direct all other agencies. So FEMA gets control of the CIA, the whole deal, everybody. Send them here, send them there, do this, do that. So let's recap with this. Samuel Huntington says democracy and economic development must be discarded as outdated ideas. And the government with no control can't sacrifice people if necessary. And all of his ideas have now been written into executive orders, laying the groundwork for a secret government. Options to institute a police state, which is very important, and why I added police state at the end earlier, because that's what they're going for. Emergency mobilization preparedness. But this all specifies that any legal restraints must need a suspension of the Constitution. You have it all wrong. It's not. Oh, yeah. Hold on. We'll skip that for a minute. But yeah, so that is kind of what it is, man. I mean, we'll continue with after World War II. It kind of goes into the background of some of this stuff. We've laid the background of this stuff on my show about, the CIA, MI6, Mossad being created all after World War II, the whole thing. And that kind of leads into where we are now. A fascist state is ultimately where we will be, led by bureaucrats that run the secret government, the continuity of government that will be brought in the future. And for the person who joined here recently, I am going to say what I said in the beginning. The apathy of the majority of the American people have ensured that a civil war is just about the only way out of our predicament we find ourselves in. And we must discern reality at all costs to be a part of the future. We have been lied to, and we must realize the truth and let it prevail. Otherwise, we will not survive. This was posited by the great Bill Cooper in his book, Behold the Pale Horse. It's our part 2 breakdown. We fucking broke it down. There's a lot of weird political shit with that where it's hard to kind of keep track. But at the end of the day, martial law was imposed during the Civil War, right? And it never was rescinded. And so that's led to all these little executive orders over time, little totalitarian tiptoe. And now we find ourselves in a place where anybody could just pull the plug and boom, it's done. That's kind of what he was saying then. But now it's even more true. It's even more real. It's even more apparent. So it's nuts, man. I appreciate you, Jack, dude. We're doing our thing, dude. I'm honestly, like I said, the great Bill Cooper knew a lot of shit. There's a lot of other people you could read. It's funny. You could read a lot of this stuff if you wanted to from the people doing it because they love talking about what they're doing. It's so crazy. I don't know. People have this idea that they karmically have to in order to, if I tell you what I'm doing, kind of like the law thing. Remember the thing I said about law? a person's not liable for a law if they don't know about it. Well, that's kind of what they do, like where they're like, look, magazine of 9/11 on The Simpsons, or Neo's ID 1999 September. It was made in 1999, and his expiration date was September 11th, 2001. And it's like these little things, these mental programs, these little hints. And maybe it is a karmic thing. I don't know. Or maybe they just like fucking with people. Whatever it is, you can find the truth out. People, somebody asked me today, they're like, where do you find all this stuff? Where do you read all this? It's like, dude, I'm just looking. If you look, you'll find it. It's that easy. I mean, damn near anything you look for, you can find nowadays. It's bullshit too, half of it. So now you almost have to see. I started my journey believing a lot of things that I don't believe now. And as times went on, I'm kind of like discerning, okay, I gotta watch for this, watch for that. There's minefields that they lay. And when you learn about the philosophies of these people, you start to notice it here and here. There's little Easter eggs because they always show themselves in some way. And that's the way you just gotta fucking watch that and apply your discernment, your own God-given introspection, and move on, man, and just try to be positive. And does it make you better, But yeah, Jack says, found you when you were a guest on Nephilim Death Squad. Hope they have me back. That was a banger episode. You guys had awesome chemistry. Dude, I think so too, man. Why don't you tell them that? No, I'm just kidding. They liked me. We had a good time, dude. They told me I threw down a banger. I don't know how they always have so many guests to come on. That's crazy. I could never keep up. I think I have a lot of guests coming on. Like, I got like 10, 11 dates planned out. Dude, daily guests, it's nuts. These guys are on it. Like a couple a day. Kudos to them. I think that they're like top 15 podcasts now, from what I saw, according to at least one of these pod trackers. Great guys. Love them. They were cool. First 2-hour episode, and I felt like I did all right. We had a great time. So I appreciate your feedback, and thanks for coming back and checking me out, man. You think they're CIA? I'm dead. That's crazy. You don't really think that, do you? Yeah, I didn't think so. No, man, they're cool, dude. I think that dude Raven, he's a funny guy. He was very right about the gooning. Okay, so the gooning thing, I read more about the gooning, like not read more, but I was reminded about what he said when I was reading the other day about a lot of these tech guys and how they're gay, right? And it's this idea of like they're anti-creation. And like if you read about Aleister Crowley, he believed that like the Eye of Horus, right? The eye of Lucifer, whatever. He believed it was in the ass, right? Because he thought, sorry to be vulgar, but he thought that if you put your life energy into a thing where it never turned into a real life form, you could manifest something like magically, like sex magic shit. And so my point is, when he was talking about on NDS about gooning and all this stuff, like to ChatGPT, and then it creates like the Antichrist, it's like AI and all this from gooning from Elon Musk. That was hilarious because he was so right in a weird way. That guy's on to something, dude. He might be a genius. Just saying. Shout out Raven. Shout out Top Lobster. And yeah, I think we threw it down, man. We're gonna finish up. I don't know if we'll finish up the book. There's a lot of a few chapters. I'm trying to get the edition that has the Learned Elders of Zion in it. They got rid of a few chapters in Bill Cooper's book. If you go buy it from Amazon, it's not the whole thing. There's original editions that have every chapter, like Learned Elders of Zion. Here, let's go. Here, I'm going to present this. Let's go. I'll go in here. We'll go look at the content. So, what do we got here? All right. Holy shit. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, Secret Societies and New Order, Oath of Initiation and Unidentified Secret Order, Secret Treaty of Verona, Goodbye USA, Hello New World Order. That's about where we got Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988. Are the Sheep Ready to Shear? What was I going to... The Secret Government. Yep, that was great. Treason in High Places. Here it is. Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Now, that was taken out. And they took out a few other things in this motherfucker, too. I think they took the AIDS thing out, too, because he posits that AIDS was created by the intelligence military community, which I kind of believe. And, yeah, I think they took that one out, too. But don't quote me on that. Very wild. Great guy. Crazy. But yeah, man, you're right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Jack, have a great night at work, man. We're fucking out of here. I'm gonna be coming out with a Israel Antichrist deep dive. If I don't get kicked off for saying this now on here, I'm gonna have to do it on Patreon because I can't just put it out here because it's gonna destroy us. And so I'll put it on Patreon and see what happens. I apologize, it's behind a paywall. I highly recommend you go check it out whenever I do put it out. It is a very, very, very concise kind of idea of what we see in front of us today. It's not literally Israel the Antichrist, but you'll see what my point is. You heard me earlier say that it's not one group, it's all of the groups and they work together. But yeah. But either way, man, y'all take care. And yeah, we'll be getting deep into some shit later. Have a great weekend. Peace.